Joe, thank you so much for joining us today, man. We're really excited to talk to you.
It's so good to see you guys again since last Panic Fest when we were hanging out. And yeah, I try to take Panic Fest as a national holiday. It should be a global holiday, if you will, when you get to see those relatives that you haven't seen for at least 364 days a year. But yeah, it's when you reached out, it was like, oh my God, I get to see John and Kim again. Just like everybody else at Panic Fest too, because it's become like so much a part of our lives in a way, because it's such a community and such a family. So can't wait to whoop it up with you guys again. But I'm glad that we get to talk about things here too.
Yeah, well, this is like your what, like 90th time going to the festival?
No,
You're like the
Adam
patron
likes to.
saint of Panic Fest at this point.
I'm more of the grumpy uncle, or no, I wouldn't. No, maybe the drunk uncle of Panic Fest. If anything, at this point, it's those goddamn slushies. I swear to God, those slushies are lethal. But no, Panic Fest has been such a staple in my life since I guess 2017 when I first went out with Adam Green because we did Movie Crypt out there, but we also showed Mayhem, and I think Victor Crowley showed there as
Oh,
well.
rad.
But it was such a great year. But it was when you do film festivals, and you do enough of them in a way, you start to kind of curate towards the ones that you really enjoy, whether it's the people, the programming, the way that it's set up, the theater itself. And the Screenland Armor is such an amazing theater to see movies in to begin with. And then you get the fact that they have booze and pizza and burgers and stuff like that. You can't go wrong. But then since 2020, when Adam was just like, do you want to come out? And I'm like, really?
Like
Okay.
for no reason? Yeah.
But at the same time, he was, I think, because we've talked so much about movies, and part of the reason why I love cinema so much is that we get to talk about them and we get to show them. And like I was that kid who would go to parties with a copy of Richard Stanley's Hardware, going like, hey guys, you want to watch this instead? Or Return of the Living Dead. And they're just like, look, dude, we don't want to hear about your zombie tits movie one more time. Like, we'd rather just like get fucked up and everything. And I'd be like, oh, but I got the VHS from the video store. Like I love being able to share movies. So when we started talking about doing that, where we would show not obscure movies, but movies that maybe would be underappreciated, might not have been seen in the theater in a while. And we did Hardware that first year in 2020, and it seemed to go well enough where when Panic Fest went back to in person again, I guess it was last year, or
Yeah, I
when
think
it
so.
wasn't just hybrid, when it went in person, and he reached out again and said, do you guys want to come back out again and screen another weird fucked up movie? So back in 2022, Adam reached out and said, would you guys want to show another movie, kind of like what we did with Hardware? And at that time, I had just seen Surf 2, not to be confused with Surf 1, because there is no Surf 1. And my girlfriend Becca was working on it at the time, doing something for Vinegar Syndrome. So we watched it, and it was one of those like, oh my God, I have to see this movie with a crowd. And it just kind of lined up with Adam saying, hey, do you want to show a messed up movie with an audience? And at the time we were like, well, maybe we should show something dark and messed up, like, I don't know, a Serbian film, or Ebola syndrome, something that would really just like elicit walkouts. And yet I said, well, why not Surf 2? Let's make something, let's watch something fun, especially if we're going to watch it on a Saturday afternoon when most people are probably hungover. Let's do
Yeah.
something where it's
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
light and fun and frothy. And that movie, if you haven't seen it, it's a party movie, and it could not have gone better for a Saturday afternoon at 1 p.m. It was like hanging out with a bunch of friends at a sleepover that just extended all the way into Saturday, and that's what made us, like, I love Panic Fest for so many reasons, but the fact that they've been willing for me to go back and enjoy obscure and messed up and fun cinema the way that we do every Friday night when we do like a marathon, very much the way that like Joe Bob and the Last Drive-In does it, where it's like you want to be able to have these communal experiences with people. And it doesn't always have to be the same movies. It can be movies that you've never heard of or would go, I've never seen that on the big screen. I might never see that on the big screen.
Hell yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's part of what makes Panic Fest such a beautiful experience, is you get to see old movies, especially new movies that might not, reach the screen or might not have the audience that it deserves, at the time that it's been made or what have you. But yeah, it's an amazing environment and experience, and great people too.
That's great. We caught Surf 2 last year when you came to screen it, and it was like the perfect Saturday afternoon experience, because I think we were hungover. We like showed up, like marched our way in with our giant boozy slushy at 1 p.m. parked in the front.
It's the perfect Bloody Mary type movie where you're just like, oh man, you know what? I don't want to talk to anyone. I just want to just like chill here for a little bit. And what's funny is that was kind of like what Scare Package 1 was when we saw it in 2020. They played it, I think, like Saturday afternoon at 1 p.m. And it just had such a fun, boisterous tone to it. And I remember sitting there hungover going like, oh God, I don't want to do it. And then immediately, like, I was like, all right, I'm ready to, start my day. And we need those movies, and I think that's fun. Now, that said, the movie that we're doing this year, which is still a secret, still not saying a word, that's going to be on Friday night at 10:45, and let's just say that it is the perfect Friday movie.
Oh
yeah,
bar none.
Okay.
So I mean, if you guys want to grill me on it, that's fine. I don't know.
I do want to grill you on it.
That's a good sell, though, just that it's a Friday night movie. Like, as a horror fan, like, that sells me.
But here's the thing. Here's one hint I will give you. It might not be a horror movie. Or it might be a horror movie to some, but I wouldn't necessarily classify. I mean, I wouldn't classify Surf 2 as a horror movie. That was one of the things that got me jazzed about even thinking about what to show next, because how the fuck do you top Surf 2? I like that was a bit the thing that we've been deliberating about since we left Panic Fest last year. We're like, if they ever ask us, if they don't run us out of town and they ask us back, what are we going to top that with?
Yeah.
And this one movie, and again, I'm going to be very vague because I don't want to give too much away. This one movie kind of dropped in our laps a couple months ago, and I think we've watched it 5 times since maybe December. And not for any other reason other than fuck it, let's do it. like you know what, like when you sit on the couch and it's a Friday night and you got a couple beers or whatever, and you're like, all right, how are we going to curate our evening? That's the best and worst part about having two movie nerds together, is that there's a wide berth of ideas that you can have. But there's also like, what comes first, what comes second, what comes third, what starts the night off right, like what ends the night. And this one movie, like, I could literally put in any one of those slots just because it is such a rollicking good time.
Okay.
But again, like it is not what you're going to expect at all. I've had many people DM me, and I've had people reach out and say either they absolutely know what it's going to be. Nope, we've not had one person who's going to ask. Has figured it out. No one has figured it out. But it's another thing too that, I mean, we're going against Evil Dead Rise, which the second I heard that, I'm like, oh man, I wanted to see Evil Dead Rise that night too. That said, Evil Dead Rise, which I'm so excited for, is coming out the next week in like 2,000 screens. Right. Whereas the last time this movie has played, here's a hint.
Hey, okay, I was going to ask you.
It has played at the New Beverly Cinema once in the last 2 years.
Oh.
Okay.
So if you want to start, if all you fans want to start scouring the calendar and start going like, oh, what could it be? Is it Nashville? No. Maybe that. I will give another hint too. It is not a Suitable Flesh. My new movie is not Suitable Flesh. That said, you never know where suitable flesh might pop up in the weekend. I don't know. We'll see.
Oh,
Wow.
Maybe a taste of flesh somewhere.
ooh,
We'll
we
see.
were
Okay.
guessing that's what it was, but I mean, until this conversation,
Yeah.
that's what our biggest guess was.
I had a
That's
whole bunch
been
of vague questions lined up, like leading to like maybe it's Castle Freak. Like, does it happen to be written by Dennis Paoli? You know, but yeah.
no, well, yeah, I'm maybe it could be, it could be Castle Freak, it could be Castle Freak. Like that's people have been debating whether to put the emphasis on Castle or Freak for years. It could be related to one of the movies that we're showing the next night. Maybe, maybe not. I love relishing in the fact that there could, of all of the films that we could be playing on Friday night. I think that I would be I will put it down right now. I will give $20 to the person who actually figures it out right now. I will buy them a drink at Panic Fest. If you show up, if you get it right, I will buy you a drink, give you $20, and fuck it, you can sit next to us. But that's how confident I am that you won't figure it out. You know, like so we'll see. You know, but yeah, so. It has played the New Beverly in the last 2 years. It is not suitable flesh.
Yeah.
Let me see. I have one more
I'm
hint.
suddenly like a little confident. I'm like, no, it's played at the New Beverly in the last 2 years. I can figure this out.
This interview, John's gonna go scour old New Beverly calendars, and he's like, "I'm going to figure it out.
I'm gonna scour my own watch list on Letterboxd. Like, guaranteed, I've already earmarked this movie. So now I'm like, well, fuck, I really want to see Evil Dead Rise, but this seems like an opportunity I can't pass up.
Yeah,
and
and
if you can even get in, we'll see. You know, but you know what? Who knows? It might be the situation where the second that we announce what it is, half the crowd leaves. So that could very well happen.
So just wait by the door.
Yeah, just
if I can't.
When you see the outpour of people who are like, and then everyone banging on the door to Evil Dead Rise, going like, "God, let me in."
That's a 4D experience for Evil Dead Rise.
Who knows? You know, even if 10 people stay, I will still be so thrilled to share this movie with an audience other than us. You know, that's the thing that I'm most excited about. That was the thing that that got me so jazzed about even showing this in the beginning, because it's an audience movie. You know, it's a movie that I think you can watch it at home, and I'm sure it's great, but there is a difference, and I'm sure you guys can agree. There's a difference when you watch in a movie and experience a film at home with just another person, by yourself, at a drive-in when you're in a car. That's a whole experience. And then there's the seeing a movie on a Friday night with a packed house of people. There's the crowd when you see a movie like Evil Dead Rise, when no one's ever seen it before. But then that's part of the reason why I love going to the New Beverly Cinema, because in most cases you're seeing a movie that people have seen over and over again. So when you watch like, Blazing Saddles there, or you're seeing like an old Kung Fu film, or recently we watched The Last Dragon, which is one of my favorite 80s movies. That whole crowd has seen that movie many times. They're quoting it. It's like a rock show, and that's what's so beautiful about cinema, is that you can have that experience. You can have 6 different experiences with the same movie. And this is a movie that, like, I've already had one version of that experience, and god damn it, I can't wait to have that experience with a crowd at Panic Fest on Friday night.
Yeah, and they're definitely the right crowd for it. Like Kansas City at Panic, like even just the people that come out to Panic Fest, they love Friday night movies.
Well, that's the thing. I wouldn't be as excited about it if I didn't experience a movie like Surf 2, which is, both cuckoo bananas, and you could ostensibly say is a bad movie, but it's a great movie. And if the crowd was as excited as they were on a Saturday afternoon at 1 p.m. for Surf fucking 2, I think we're gonna have a fucking party.
I'm not gonna lie, like just the idea that we're talking about a movie that I don't know what it is just kind of like a fun puzzle my brain keeps wanting to work at.
It's like Schrodinger's film.
Yeah, I can't.
Like, what could it be?
Yeah, I can't stop asking questions about it. But I mean, like in a general sense, not necessarily talking about the movie you're playing. What makes a great Friday night movie for you?
What makes a great Friday night movie for me? Well, that movie next Friday,
Yeah.
but you'll get that eventually. No, it it really depends on the mood, like on a Friday night, especially if you've worked like a hard week, and like you've been you're hitting the pavement, you've been working all week, you're tired, you want to just relax, that Saturday you don't have to get up until later or whatever, and you can just kind of unwind. There's a certain type of movie, there's a certain type of tone that I think is kind of important when you want to kick the night off, especially like if you have a couple beers, you got a joint or whatever, like you can just kind of ease into the evening. Personally, lately, we've been doing a lot of like kind of real long, like 5 movie deep movie marathon
Wow.
nights,
Yeah.
where we have to properly curate the evening so that we start out big, and then just kind of like by the end we're watching something that we usually it's like a Disney movie or a Spy Kids 2 or something like that, where we can kind of like, all right, what, if I fall asleep at the end of this, it's no harm, no foul.
Yeah.
But usually that first movie is something that either one of us hasn't seen, that we're introducing the other two, or it's something that we just know is like fun and has a particular like energy to it. Like anytime that I think of that first movie on a Friday night, I think of that skeleton that comes out of the ground in Return of the Living Dead and goes, "Do you want a party?" Like that's the moment that I want for that first Friday night movie, whether or not it's Return of the Living Dead, which in most cases can always be Return of the Living Dead with that energy. So it's gotta be fun. I think that's something that you want to kick off the night with, something that is going to be lively and be exciting, that will hopefully parlay into something else, that because I like recently we've been watching a lot of movies that we've seen before so that we can just talk about it from a technical standpoint. Like we just got off of this movie that we've been editing, and again, it's hard to not take work out of the situation, but like I'd rather watch a movie like Assault on Precinct 13 that I've seen a million times and sit there and go, well, Carpenter could have cut right there, but he didn't cut right there. He actually held on the little girl when she got splattered with blood from the ice cream cone, and we're like explicating moments. That is so much fun. I would much rather be, an old-fashioned deep watching, how precise some of the edits in Full Metal Jacket are, or how, oh my God, like recently we watched this movie called Come and See, which is this anti-war film, from like 1985. And now we didn't watch it on a Friday, but we watched it, and and I love being able to talk about these kind of movies, from a both an experiential side, but also from a technical side, and being able to break something like that down. Now that said, don't watch Come and See on a Friday night, just putting that out there. But
vibe killer.
Yeah, oh, your night is done. But looking at some of the other movies now, I have to go to my letterbox too and just see like what some of the other Friday night movies that we've watched recently, because I like we take great pride in what movies that we try to like fill up our evening with. So something like 10 to Midnight, the Charles Bronson slasher pot boiler, if you've never seen that
I
one.
haven't. Yeah.
Oh man, like there was this time when everybody was trying to get in on the slasher trend. So you had guys like Charlie Bronson making a movie with Cannon where it's Charles Bronson and a naked killer in LA. They clash 10 to midnight. Makes no sense why it's called that. Doesn't matter. Or was it Chuck Norris did one called The Hero and the Terror? Same fucking thing. It's
Wow.
kick-ass Chuck Norris versus some sweaty killer.
What a double feature.
Actually, that is a damn good double feature. But like recently, we for my birthday last weekend, we did a marathon night.
Happy belated.
Yeah, happy belated.
Thank you very much. Well, it was a very good night because of these movies. Here is a perfect Friday night at our place, especially for my birthday. Ready? We started off with John Woo's Hard Target.
Oh, yeah, hell yeah.
Which Becca had never seen before. So, but again, I'd seen it many times. So I
just showed Kim Time Cop. She's like on the verge of getting into Jean-Claude Van Damme.
I'm falling into it.
Wait, trust me, you haven't seen a movie like Hard Target where you have John Woo, produced by Sam Raimi, decimated by the studio. Bob Murawski edited, the guy who did Grindhouse Releasing, who owns Grindhouse Releasing. He cut the movie with Jean-Claude Van Damme with the greasiest mullet, and has a line like, "So take your big stick and your boyfriend and find the next bus to catch." Poetry. And it's got the doves and the flying index cards and all the crossfades. But we can watch a movie like that and have fun, but also be able to go, wow, that looks like a 48 frame cross dissolve. Fucking nice. You know, that's what it's like when you're sitting on the couch watching a movie with us. Then, and again, these were movies because it was my birthday and I wanted to feel both young and old. These were movies that I had seen and loved as a kid. Yeah. Whether they held up or not is totally questionable. But then we followed up Hard Target with the Garbage Pail Kids movie.
Okay.
Which if you haven't seen, yeah, sure. Like I remember it as a kid and it was one of those like, okay, you know, John Beekler did the effects. That's really cool. There's a troll homage in the background and everything. Could I tell you the plot? Then again, it's the Garbage Pail Kids, the movie. There should be no plot. They're fucking trading cards. It's fine. Then, much to the chagrin of my good friend Bobcat Goldthwait, and I can say that, we watched Hot to Trot, the talking horse movie with John Candy. Which is a
why haven't I heard of this movie?
Wait, you haven't heard of Hot to Trot?
No, and I fucking love John Candy.
It's ready. Three quick things. So Bobcat Goldthwait was on a high from, probably very high, from the popularity of the Police Academy movies. And also One Crazy Summer. So like he had his moment, you know, this was his 15 minutes. So they threw him into this talking horse movie that was originally voiced by Elliot Gould. And I believe weeks before the movie came out, they decided to change the voice and put John Candy in the voice. They didn't even credit him. John Candy didn't want to be credited in the movie. So, so on the poster, it doesn't even say John Candy. It says Don the Horse as himself. But it is a talking horse movie with Bobcat Goldthwait and John Candy. It's a must see. It's a movie that I watched every other day because it was on it every other day on HBO. So that one held up pretty well, actually.
Okay, good.
Then Breakin' 2 Electric Boogaloo.
Classic.
Yep. Funny enough, if you listen to some of these titles, they might actually give you little hints as to what the choice was for the movie that we're showing next Friday. Just saying.
Yeah, we're opening your brain like a can of soup right now. We're just seeing the rest of the ingredients.
So Breakin' 2 Electric Boogaloo, mainly because it's the movie that got me into breakdancing, which also got me in trouble years later, but that's another story over drinks. I'll tell you in Kansas City.
I will follow up on that.
It gets dark. And then finally
the breakdancing story gets dark. Okay.
Oh, trust me, it gets dark. But that's a whole nother thing. A couple of years ago. And then finally, because we both went, oh my God, you love this movie too, which is one of the best things. I'm sure that you guys have experienced that before, but that's when you know true love, when you can have like a moment where you go, wait a second. You like that movie too? Fuck, we got to put that on now. And it's one I'm probably going to lose a couple followers for. The original High School Musical.
Wow.
Okay.
And that's mainly now, but here's where it turns back into the horror realm. And this is how I actually justified it to myself when we were watching it at 4 a.m. When I don't know if you guys remember this movie called Animals. It was a movie that it was a werewolf movie that came out years ago. And one of the writers was Craig Spector. Craig Spector was one of the original splatterpunks from the 80s. John Skipp and Craig Spector were like, along with like Doug Winter and Clive Barker, they were the godfathers of literary splatterpunk.
Okay.
and they wrote a bunch of different books. The Light at the End. They wrote the original script for Nightmare on Elm Street Part 5. They also wrote one of my favorite books of all time called The Bridge, which is this like eco horror splatter masterpiece. It's great.
Okay.
But those guys were like total punk rock, total fucking heavy metal. They were badasses. They split up years later, and then but I got in touch with Craig Spector. I went over his house because I wanted to work on one of his books. I think it was The Bridge at the time, and he was working on this movie Animals, and half the cast of that Animals movie was in High School Musical. At the time, I was casting Knights of Badassdom, and he's like, "Oh man, you got to check out High School Musical. Everybody in that movie is going to be a fucking star." So I went home and I watched it and went, "Holy shit, this movie is pretty fucking good." So I never thought I would admit that, but then it was like 4 a.m. We were drunk and we were just like, "Fucking High School Musical, let's go." and that is how that's basically how our night ended. But that's
great.
Again, it's like our movie marathons, we try to take pride in how you curate those evenings, because you know, like one movie will put you in a kind of crappy mood and then you want to like liven things up, or something is just like so much fun that you want, and you know, you want to be able to talk through the next movie, so you put in a movie that you've seen a million times, you know.
Yep.
So it's an art form. It's definitely an art form.
One of the weirdest, and we didn't do this ourselves.
We're the same way though with with the vibe chasing.
Yeah, like, you know, we don't usually plan out the whole night, but we definitely plan out what the first movie is gonna be. I don't know if you remember,
because
like,
that's the one that sets things off. Like,
Yeah.
like depending on the mood that you're in, you want to have a movie that's at least going to. It's like it's being a DJ. It's finding out those first 2 songs that you know will kind of blend together. The beats will kind of sync up with each other, and then after that, you kind of want to feel the audience out. You want to, you know, is the dance floor really rollicking? Do they want some more, you know, disco, or do they want new wave, or do they want some punk rock, or do they want some heavy metal?
Yeah.
Like, you got to kind of go with the flow. If you're just being like, all right, I'm going to give them all the hits. Or if you predict that, like, oh, you know, by the 3rd movie, we might want to kind of Schindler's List this shit. that has never happened ever.
No, it's never.
That is never, no, and it never will. But yeah, it's definitely something that you have to feel the audience and feel each other out, and go like, okay, you know, what's next? And that's part of the excitement of it. You never know where the night's going to go.
Yeah. One weird thing that we do, like when we're doing a movie marathon, like our Friday night, is John will curate like a trailer reel ahead of each film. So if it's 1986, we'll watch like a bunch of commercials from 1986, like what the Coke commercial looked like in 1986,
Always a Coca-Cola commercial.
what the theater preview was like, what the like don't smoke in the theater.
If I get real nerdy, I try and go with I find the distributor for the movie we were gonna watch, and then I just find more movies from the same distributor in the exact same year. So it's like, this is what it probably. Yeah, you do that too. Yeah.
So every month on the Movie Crypt, we do a live event at the end of the month called Slumber Party Massacre, where we watch a movie with the audience. And every month, Adam and I like trade back and forth. We do a pre-show that plays right before.
Right on.
And we do exactly that. I put like old commercials on there, old theater bumpers on there, the trailers. Like this last month we did Pet Sematary, so it was Animal Attacks and obscure Stephen King movies like The Mangler 2 and Cell and like all, but then mixed in with like Zombievers and like weird Purina cat commercials from the 80s and stuff like that. But then mixed in with, you know, like all those great theater bumpers that when we would go to the theater and be like, oh man, I miss, like, I'm sick of Nicole Kidman. Like, I want to see a bunch of dancing popcorn dudes telling you to go get some concessions, riding on a roller coaster that looks like it was made in 1986 CG. Like, I miss all that shit. Yeah, I'm the same exact way.
We got to. I mean, I've got more questions about, you know, programming that, you know, hypothetical programming that we all like to do, but I really don't want to waste an opportunity to ask you about your new movie. When I think of you, like, I think of you as a horror filmmaker, but you know, you haven't always done horror. How does it feel to come back to horror?
It feels fucking great. and not only to come back to horror, but to come back to a very specific type of horror, but at the same time go into places that I've never gone to before as a filmmaker, as a storyteller. Like the thing that I loved about this particular script, which is Suitable Flesh, which was originally based on the Lovecraft short story, The Thing on the Doorstep, was the lineage involved. And that includes, Brian Usna is one of our producers who produced, obviously, Reanimator and From Beyond and directed Society, and was in that whole Lovecraft, that Empire Pictures, Charlie Band, Stuart Gordon world. Dennis Paoli, who wrote those movies as well, wrote the script. Dame Barbara Crampton, who was the producer, and then eventually we coerced her to be in the film as well. And
Yes.
Oh, right on.
Great. So when they presented that to me, this was me coming off of this kind of bigger budget action film, and when I was on the set of that movie, all I kept thinking of was, fuck, where's my gallon of blood sitting next to my director's chair? Like I was pining for the ability to go back into the genre that I've always loved forever, and that's been really great to me, and I love being able to kind of tell stories in that genre. So I was looking for the right thing, and this script came along, and I was so excited about it. And then COVID hit, and then we had some time to really kind of play with it a little bit, and then to be able to finally put it on screen, but do it in a way that I don't think anyone's going to expect. Like, if you know the story, The Thing on the Doorstep, our approach to it is very different than what you'd expect. I don't want to give too much away, but when you look at the cast, we have Heather Graham and Barbara Crampton, Judah Lewis, the kid from The Babysitter. He's all grown up now, let me tell you that. But it harkened back to something that I learned a lot about myself, if anything, in those last couple of years, and some of the things that I missed from cinema that I was getting recently. And this is no slight on movies that have come out in the past couple of years, but there's a certain desire that we have for movies, whether it was back in the day or just films. I love watching provocative films. I love watching movies that press buttons that are dangerous. And the second you say, "Oh, this movie's dangerous," you're provoking someone to say, like, "Well, fuck you, pal. Don't tell me what's dangerous," because everyone's got different tastes.
Yeah.
But I miss films that tried to provoke and to be a little on the edgy side. And this was an opportunity with this particular script for us to really play with Lovecraft, really play with the themes that are in the original story, but do it in a way that I feel is incredibly modern for today's audience, for today's purview on everything from sex to gender politics, but more importantly, like I miss being able to watch a movie and have it and be kind of pushed a little bit, and also just be fucking horny. God damn it. Like, there's not enough horny movies out there. And this was an opportunity to do something that I've always wanted to do, to kind of push myself as a filmmaker and a storyteller, was to do a movie that was incredibly horny. I've never done it before. Anytime that I've had, sex scenes in movies, they've been a little bit on the fleeting side. And there is a fascination with the erotica, especially in films that came out between like the 80s and 90s. Like, I'm so excited on the Criterion Collection channel.
The
right
erotic
now.
thrillers.
Let me just tell you that half of the movies, if not more, were movies that we watched while doing research for this movie. And look, there is a certain aesthetic to those movies, whether because look, these days, you can go to any porn site and you can see very harshly lit scenes of fornication that are not very stylistic. There's just not a lot of fun. They're not very sexy. And gone are the days where you could, with obviously making sure that everyone is comfortable on set and all that, but there is eroticism seems to have been missing. And that was something that we felt like, here's an opportunity to do something with this story that allows us to play in those worlds as well. And and everybody was really game for that. Everyone was really cool with like the kind of changes we wanted to make with the original text, but also to play in that Lovecraft world, because I like when perfect example, Reanimator to me is a perfect example of that, and From Beyond as well, of that kind of dangerous erotic genre cinema that I feel is missing.
Yeah,
And
From
Stuart
Beyond
Gordon,
especially, yeah.
yeah, I mean, both. That's why I'm so excited about being able to show From Beyond at Panic Fest on Saturday night,
Yeah.
because I don't think, like, when you watch that movie, you're gonna have a couple people squirming in their seats in the best way possible, like, because they're gonna go, man, I feel kind of funky down there, and
Yeah.
I'm not in front of a laptop,
Well,
This
like,
is horny
weird.
and scary.
Yes.
Well, and you got Barbara Crampton coming down with you to introduce it as well, right? That's gonna add a layer.
So we're going to be introducing the movie. We're going to do a Q&A in between, and then afterwards Ted Gagan's going to take over with We Are Still Here. So it's
Right
a
on.
Crampton sandwich, if you
Yeah.
will. And all I will say is this: you're definitely going to want to be sticking around for that Q&A in between. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Oh.
Maybe we'll see. I don't know. I'm going to have to convince some powers that be. We'll see. But yeah, I mean, that was something that I was always really excited about with this script and making this movie. And I wanted to kind of pay homage to a lot of the filmmakers that I always felt knew how to balance genre and erotica in really intriguing ways. Most specifically, Brian De Palma and Stuart Gordon. Those two directors specifically knew how to make things both scary and horny, and play with cinema in ways that were incredibly stylish. Use the camera, use the editing, use the performers, and create this tapestry of different genres that really excite people both up here and down there. That's what we were going for.
Well, damn, man, I couldn't be
That's
more
cinema,
excited now.
though.
Yeah, right.
Deep cinema.
To get it to just like turn on like a knife's edge. Yeah. Yeah, erotic, H.P. Lovecraft, gory thriller sound, well, horror.
And it's a body swap movie too.
Well, fuck.
Ooh.
Damn. Yeah, no.
That was what attracted me the most to it when I first read the script, because I knew the story and I knew that it was like one of the first body swap stories that I had ever heard of. That's not true. I saw enough 80s body swap movies like 18 Again and like Father Like Son and vice versa.
Yeah.
Where I knew the tropes, but I was like, wow, he was writing about that shit back then. Like, I mean, that's the beauty of Lovecraft, was that he's kind of like that character in South Park that would be like, Simpsons did it, like there was some honestly, Lovecraft in one form or another was besting a lot of the contemporaries today with a lot of these old stories. And I think that's what still makes him so relevant, is that he was delving into those ideas back in the 20s. But you have to be smart about it, because if you delve into enough Lovecraft, you also know that he had some very
yeah,
he was very opinionated in certain ways. So there's some things in this movie that I think are very respectful, not just to Lovecraft, but especially Stuart Gordon and Dennis and Brian and Barbara's version of that we all grew up with, like from Reanimator and From Beyond. Is very respectful to that version of Lovecraft. And maybe it might actually be part of a Miskatonic verse, if you will.
Oh,
we'll see. But also there are things in it that I wouldn't be surprised if Lovecraft would be spinning in his grave over how we played with those themes as well. So
good.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't know if like we're finishing up the movie now. Like literally, like we're still going through coloring and VFX and everything. So hopefully it'll be done. Shit. Okay, I gotta go, guys. Bye. But yeah, like we're on the last legs of it right now, and I'm just really excited for people to see it finally, because it's been a bit of a long road finally getting it, like from script to screen to you guys. But hopefully someone digs it.
Well, man, we're really excited to check it out. I'm sure everybody at Panic Fest is gonna love it whenever they get a chance to see
I
it
was like,
too.
wait, you're not baiting me into this, pal. Not happening.
We'll see.
No.
We'll take it in whatever condition it's in. You just put it in a briefcase and bring it on down to the theater.
I'm just gonna put it. You know what? I'm just gonna put it on my phone, and I'm just gonna sit in the lobby and
everybody
just be like,
crowd
here you
around.
go. Yeah. Check this shit out. This is crazy. That's all you get.
Well, before we let you go, we like to ask everybody. I kind of feel like we've inadvertently done this like the entire time, but we like to ask everybody what their dream drive-in double feature would be. If you could play any two movies at the drive-in, what would you play?
I'm a fan of the show, so I know the question, and it's one of those like, oh boy, if I ever get the chance to get asked this, I know what I'm going to say. And then I ran into a quandary because there's too many great options, especially like when you have to think about what's your A movie and what's your B movie. So I'm going to say we're going to put this into one of those drive-ins that has 4 screens, and I now have control of the projection in the center, and I can play whatever the fuck I want. And I'm going to have now 4 choices for each screen.
This is the mad scientist configuration.
Well, like I did this movie like almost 11 years ago called Chillerama, which was this
I fucking love that
anthology. Thank you. Well, but like I that was one of the like first times that I had a script that poured out of me in like one night, for better or for worse. But I've grown up at the drive-in. I've loved the drive-in like my entire life. I cherish the experience. We just had a drive-in close here in LA, the Mission Tiki, that was kind of like during COVID, it was the only theater that was open. So it was like my lifeblood. Like we've gone many times to it since, and we were actually Becca and I were actually at the very last show.
Aww.
Before it closed the next day. We went to go see that movie Plane. Fun movie. It was actually a very good drive-in movie, but it was so bittersweet because it was like, now tomorrow it's going to get bulldozed and it's going to be an Amazon shipping facility.
Oh, fuck. That hurts.
I think we saw House of Gucci there.
We saw that at Vineland.
Oh.
Well, the Vineland is good. The only problem is, like we were talking before, their projection sometimes
so
sucks.
Dark.
It's a little dark. We went to go see Peninsula there, the Train to Busan 2, and it was so dark I had no clue what the fuck was going on. But we also shot Chillerama there, so I have a lot of cool. I have my heart goes out to it. Anyway, being like in that projection room and being like the controller, like Cecil Kaufman, Richard Riley's character in Chillerama, being able to like, oh my God, I have everyone's attention right now, and I can put on whatever the fuck I want, like like a mad scientist. So okay, so I've carefully curated what these are going to be, and there was a lot of factors involved. I won't bore you with all of them, but let's just say that there was a lot of internal discussions as I was driving to work in the last couple of days, going, oh, what movie should go with what? So on screen 1, the A movie is going to be Chuck Russell's The Blob. Because that's the movie that made me want to make movies, and I've seen it at the Mission Tiki. They played it with Beyond Fest a couple years ago, and it plays like gangbusters, mainly because it's got a little bit of everything. It's got screams, it's got laughs. One of the things you always have to think of when you're curating a drive-in movie is how many honks you get. You want to have a lot of moments where you can flash your lights and honk your horn and everything, and there's at least Chuck Russell's The Blob is a 5 honker. It's definitely a 5 honker, because there's at least 5 moments where you're going to go like, holy shit, or oh my God, they killed a kid, or like, yeah, get him, Kevin Dillon with the mullet. And that movie just kills. It's a little on the dark side, meaning like, it plays a little dark because it's a darker movie when we get to the end, but still awesome. And then the B movie would be the Blues Brothers, John Landis's Blues Brothers.
Oh yeah, okay.
I always feel like you need a second movie, because sometimes the B movie ends up being like the crappier movie, or the movie that like you're expecting people to leave. I want to keep motherfuckers there. I want them to still flow.
Exactly.
And you want movies that are going to have music and a great pace to it. And the Blues Brothers has everything in a bag of chips, especially that last 20 minutes. especially with all the car crashes.
I was gonna say
everything.
it's got 100 car crashes. Yeah.
It's got everything, and the music, like I love it when we go to the drive-in and you can roll down the window and it's almost like you get this weird stereoscopic sound
Yeah.
because the music is coming from everybody's car. It's such a delightful experience, that, and Blues Brothers is perfect for that. So that's on screen 1.
Okay.
To our right, we have screen 2, and that is playing to, I'm calling that the maximum high octane screen. And that is playing, the first movie is Phil Joanneau's 3 O'Clock High, which if you haven't seen it is a remake of High Noon set in a high school. It's fucking fantastic. It's got an amazing pace. Phil Joanneau was kind of, what's the word? Groomed, if you will, to be the next Spielberg by Spielberg himself.
Oh.
And the movie is shot by Barry Sonnenfeld. It's your basic kid. Have you guys seen it before?
I haven't seen it since I was a kid, but it's
there's a new Blu-ray that came out, and you will have a whole new appreciation. It's a high school after hours. If you've ever seen Martin Scorsese's After Hours, there's a certain kind of like tone and energy and pace. And this is basically a kid who gets called out by the new bully in school to fight him at 3 o'clock, and it will keep your heart pumping. That one's a 4-hunker for sure. The second movie on that bill is Stephen King's Maximum Overdrive, because
that's John's screen. John's sold on 2.
That movie is just so batshit crazy, and I have so many fucking stories about that I will likely be like outside. I've seen the movie a million times, telling everybody about all the coke-addled stories that I heard about that movie from people who worked on that film.
Oh, that's great.
And also, it's got an amazing score by AC/DC.
Right.
So again, music is driving that film, no pun, is driving the film, and it's just so batshit crazy that, like, even if you're just totally stoned, you can kind of follow along enough, and and you just crank the music up and you watch Emilio Estevez bazooka that fucking green truck, and you're good.
That's definitely the screen that's got the backwards trucks with all the teens in their sleeping bags sitting outside.
Yep. 100%.
Beers and AC/DC.
So for the lovers in the crowd, I'm going with the back one, so that, like, you know, like if anyone wants to fuck in the back, you know, like that can be screen 3. That's all the way in the back. That's going to be, the first movie is going to be Jonathan Demme's Something Wild, which is one of the most wonderful, offbeat, sexy movies of the 80s. It stars Jeff Daniels and Melanie Griffith, and Ray Liotta's first movie. Now, the reason why I programmed that is that it is so sweet and loving. It's a meet cute movie in the beginning, and then it turns into the Texas Chainsaw Massacre by the end. It is. Have you guys seen it before?
No, there's a small chance we have it on VHS in the house. Okay, but we haven't seen it.
You're welcome when you watch it. Okay. Trust me, because the one thing that people forget about a little bit when it comes to drive-in movies is that, like, when people go to the drive-in, like, they want to get a little horny, you know? So that's a movie that gets really horny. And then by the time you're done, you're like, oh, fuck, we might as well get some more popcorn and get some soda, whatever. Then you watch the rest of that movie and it's a fucking nightmare. It's great.
Okay.
But then you want something that's going to, you know, keep people there. And, you know, I wanted to go with something with music. And that's where you go into Barry Gordy's The Last Dragon, which is kung fu, music, rap. It's got everything, you know, and that's something where it'll keep the energy going well past you guys hooking up in the backseat. And then for the older crowd, or the nostalgic crowd, that's the left screen. And I wanted to go to something retro. So on the left screen, on screen 4, first movie up is Dazed and Confused, Richard Linklater's Dazed and Confused, because it's a hangout movie. That's where all the potheads can go, and they can, you know, smoke up, and they can have a good time, and, you know, and just enjoy Linklater's, like, ultimate hangout movie. You know, like, that's a perfect way to just kind of, okay, we're good.
Yeah, and you can start that one early, like when the sun's setting.
That's the perfect time. Yeah,
exactly. And then to keep that kind of vibe going and still keep the hangout going, I went with George Lucas's American Graffiti, because the music is great. It's a little more upbeat. And it's just, I think it's just a beautiful movie. And I would maybe like either switch those two, because I think American Graffiti plays really well, like, as the sun goes down too. So that one could be swapped either way. But both of those movies they revel in the music and in the nostalgia. It's a much sweeter kind of vibe. And that one, people can kind of chill with that one a little bit. But yes, so that's all 4 screens. I got them all covered, and
That sounds
hopefully
amazing.
that is the ultimate drive-in night, as per me.
That's tough. I mean, I'm probably not skipping an opportunity to see Maximum Overdrive on the big at a drive-in. Damn, something wild though. That sounds good.
Yeah,
I'm
like
telling you, like that movie will wreck you. It's actually the Criterion Collection put out a Blu-ray of Something Wild a couple of years ago, and
Okay.
it will make you reappreciate how amazing a director Jonathan Demme was. Like, there was a world of Jonathan Demme movies like in his Corman days, and when he was making movies in the 80s, like Married to the Mob and stuff.
Yeah.
yeah.
Before he did, before he became an important filmmaker with Silence of the Lambs. I personally, Something Wild is maybe my favorite Jonathan Demme movie, and it's a movie that we go back to all the time as just being one of the like weirdest genre blenders out there, because
Okay.
seriously, like, it's like Audition, where you think from the first half of the movie you're watching something possibly sweet and maybe even romantic, and then someone switches the channel and Texas Chainsaw Massacre's on.
Okay.
There you go.
That
That's
sounds
rad.
amazing.
You've given us like such a great watch list. Like we're gonna have to listen back to this and scroll
Yeah.
down all the movies we haven't seen.
Well, you better hurry up, because we got a week before Panic Fest, so I'm going to be
To talk
asking
about
you,
them all. Yeah, good
we got to
point.
talk about all of those. So
We'll study up. You color your movie. We'll meet next
Yes.
week.
done, and we'll reconvene at Kansas City for what could be the best Panic Fest yet, I hear.
I am so stoked. It's going to be such a blast.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much for taking the
Awesome.
time to talk to us. Can't wait to party with you at Panic Fest.
Oh my God, I can't wait to see you guys again. And yeah, if anyone is listening or watching, whatever, hang out with us. It's Panic Fest. No holds barred.
Yeah.
We're not watching No Holds Barred. Trust me, that's not the movie. Definitely
It was
not
a
the movie.
clue.
Or is it? All right, guys.